Shock Piece: The Search for Freedom. A novel by C. Nguyen. Chapter 33. The Sea Voyage. The night was still dark. After being lifted off into the bigger vessel, everything went blurry. Strin continued to hear indistinct whispering and confused chatter. The girl was holding tightly to her mother, still recovering from her fright. They stepped down together into the boat's cargo hold below, and then Mother released her hand from Trin's grip and pushed her gently down onto the bench. Starting again with her string of don'ts, she said hoarsely, "Sit here and stay put. Don't make any noise, and don't go anywhere. Don't say anything. Understand, child?" Trin nodded her head, unable to utter a word. She was wet, barefoot, and shivering. The peasant blouse was muddy. A few snap-on buttons were undone, leaving her blouse partially open. Blasted buttons that never stay in place. They were poor quality recycled ones. Trin gave up trying to snap them back together all the time during the night. Her black pajama satin pants were ripped from the hems to the knees on both trousers. The flimsy material was not able to stand rugged wear, especially when wet. "I'll be back. Don't move. Remember, don't make any noise." Mother left her there and disappeared onto the upper deck, her faint silhouette moving away in the dark. After a while, Drin realized Kim was sitting next to her. Kim must have obeyed Mother's instruction to stay close by her side all the time. Both were quiet and tired. It had been a very long day for them, and the ordeal was not over yet. They were not safe until the boat was out at sea in international waters. The guards might spot the boat and gun them down in the morning if they were still in sight when dawn broke. Drin closed her eyes and curled up on the bench. The young girl could not care less. She was wet, cold, hungry, frightened, and exhausted. She just wanted to go to sleep and hope that when she woke up tomorrow, the sun would be there for her. G went looking for her sons, Juan and Luke, and was relieved that they were there, sitting in a corner with their father. Nguyen spotted G, and they nodded, acknowledging each other before G dashed away again. She had to make sure all her children were on board. All the dinghies were departing and going back to the shore. The last escapees were safely hoisted onto the boat. "Are you all right, V?" G asked her second daughter. "Yes, Mother, I'm all right, and you?" V answered softly. She did not dare to look Mother in the eye. As if sensing something wrong, G suddenly asked, "Where's Dien?" V hesitated, as if searching for words, before answering quietly. "He's gone back on shore in one of the dinghies, Mother." "What?" G uttered in astonishment. "Dien what?" "He's not on this boat, Mother. I could not hold him back," V said lamely. "Oh no, my Buddha, what a fool!" G felt her heart skip several beats and felt about to faint, but she told herself to be calm and strong for the rest of her family. She staggered back to the below deck and would deal with that later, but not now. Dien had decided to go back because he did not want to leave his sweetheart behind. V realized that her brother was a romantic soul, and it was his first love. He stayed in Vietnam and married her a few months later. Day 1. Drin was awake and feeling dizzy. The boat was rolling, and everything was upside down. She closed her eyes again, and everything was spinning in her head. Nothing helped to take away that gross feeling. She had lost track of time. She tried to sit up, but she vomited immediately on the cargo floor. The stench of vomit was strong. There were many people lying against each other like sardines in a can. She was not the only one vomiting right next to where she lay. Several others were doing the same. It was smelly and stuffy in here. It made Drin vomit again and again until she passed out completely. Many times in her twilight zone, Drin vaguely remembered a silhouette helping her sip spoonfuls of water and keeping her hydrated. Day 2. The next time Drin opened her eyes, she could not sit up at all. She was weak with exhaustion and thirst. Her lips were parched and cracked, and she could not breathe. It was stuffy and unbearable. The stench of vomit, human bodies, rotten cassava, and sweet potatoes was overpowering in the crowded cargo hold. Drin recognized V, and her sister gave Drin a little sip of water in a small cup. But the girl threw up immediately, even if there was nothing there. Drin could taste the bile in her mouth. Kim was lying next to her, but the older girl seemed better and able to hold down the sip of water successfully. Drin closed her eyes again and wished that her torment would just go away when she woke up. Day 3. Drin could feel the fresh sea breezes on her cheeks. In her semi-conscious state, she smelled the ocean, and that brought a smile to her face. It was wonderful, and she felt at peace. She opened her eyes fully, but shut them quickly again as the sun's piercing rays were directly above her. Drin came to full consciousness. She was lying on the upper deck, and it was a beautiful sunny morning. Instinctively, Drin tried to snap her blouse buttons back on, as that was the last thing she remembered. Those blasted buttons! But someone had changed her into a t-shirt and a normal pair of trousers from the pile of clothes Mother brought down to the boat long before the trip. Thank goodness for that, and miraculously, her nausea had passed. She inhaled the sweet, fresh air into her lungs, letting them expand fully and filling every alveolus with pure oxygen. Drin could almost feel its atomic movement traveling from her nostrils to the bottom ends of her lungs' alveolar sacs, just like swallowing a first sip of water in an empty stomach and sensing its flow. Drin was relieved that she was alive. Alive and breathing. She could not believe it. Her endurance test had ended. There was a time when she had just wished to die. It would have been much easier. Mother came to her and she smiled too. The girl was weak and dehydrated, but she had come round at last. They had rescued both Kim and Drin from the lower deck after 2 days and 3 nights at sea. The boat was out in international waters, running at maximum power just when dawn was breaking out. The captain was chatting animatedly with her brothers. We were damn lucky. I was scared shitless going past the coastal guard station with the noisy and ancient engine running during the night. It was deserted as far as I could see. Otherwise, it would easily have been caught. The speed we travelled at. How fast was it, Captain? Mac asked. 10 knots, and the engineer was certain that he could get the boat up to 50 knots with 2 engines running. What a load of bullshit. The captain shook his head at the lies. He repeated, we were damn lucky. Day 4. Drin recovered her strength quickly in the next few days. Being youthful was an advantage. She was fascinated by everything. This was her first sea voyage, and the sea was enormous. There were clear skies and water in beautiful shades of blue, from indigo to dark to cobalt to azure to baby blue. It was an extraordinary sight and was tranquil, with white, fluffy, peaceful clouds above. Her family's boat was small, 15 meters long, 5 meters wide, and with a hull as round as a ball. It was a cargo barge that used to transport sweet potatoes, cassava, and water chestnuts along the Kangto River, and had been crudely modified by laymen to carry 50 people to sea without the slightest knowledge of what a sea vessel's requirements were. The naval captain had been released from re-education camp a few weeks before, and quickly recruited by father through his connections to join the escape. He was horrified on seeing the state of the boat in the morning under the sun, but it was too late for him to turn back. The people's life in the cargo hold below now became his sole responsibility. He had to bring them safely to shore. Sitting at the bow, he kept muttering, we need to keep faith and say our prayers, folks. I'll be glad when it's all over. Yeah, I'll be damn glad. There was desperation when they stepped onto the boat to get out to sea, but it loomed larger every day when they could not see the shoreline. They had been floating for 3 days, and the land was nowhere to be seen. There was only the peaceful water and the sky. However, at times there were angry skies with boisterous dark clouds and a ferocious sea ready to swallow everything in its path, exerting its power over meaningless lives and sudden death. Wake up! Shush! Wake up, but shush! Juan shook Drin's shoulders, waking the girl. It was night. In her grogginess, she was reluctant to open her eyes. Why? Go away. Mother and father want us to go on to the upper deck together. Wake up and hurry, Juan added. But don't make any noise. We don't want to wake the others. Hearing the seriousness of his voice, the girls came to full alert. The boat suddenly rolled to one side when Drin was trying to sit up. She could hear the rain and the spit-spat splashing of waves against the sides of the boat now. Then she realized the constant downpour from the darkened sky seemed to increase in volume suddenly, and the waves were angrier in the short time she was awake. The change was swift. The windows on both starboard and port sides were brimming with water as the boat rolled with the atrocious sea. Waves were splashing over the sides, and water was already over her feet when Trin stepped out of the lower deck. The water kept rising rapidly. Kim was beside her. There's a big storm out there, Trin. She was in awe. Both mounted quietly to the upper deck, where all their family were already huddled. The captain was at the steering wheel, and his family were gathered in a corner as well. The rain kept pouring down in torrents. The intensity of the downpour made the water droplets cutting onto Drin's face as sharp as the scratches of an angry sea monster. She ducked her head down, trying to avoid them, but they pounced on her back as equally painful. The sisters were holding hands tightly and moving along the rail toward the rest of their family. How many of us here in the boat, Mac? Drin heard the captain ask. His anxiety was audible. About 50, 55, Mac answered. Why? Not knowing what else to do, they were all standing in the rain, holding on tightly to the rails and waiting for it to stop. It seemed impossible to them that it might stop at all. In the meantime, the riverboat kept rolling sideways and up and down like a lone, floating tiny egg in a giant boiling saucepan. Mac and the captain decided to gather their families here, but leave the rest out of it in fear of causing panic. How many water tanks do we have? The captain continued. His hands were busy controlling the boat. About 20. Why? Mac was puzzled. The captain hesitated, then sighed. Forget it, then. I was about to tell you to empty all the water into the tanks to turn them into floats. However, there are more of us than them, so forget it, Mac. We just have to pray harder for the storm to stop, or we'll all go down with the boat. There's not much choice for us, he concluded. Then he said, just go down there to the engine room and tell them to turn them all off. We have to let the boat float along the waves and ride the storm. Can't do much with its size and shape and its engine, but let the Almighty decide our fate. Before the captain finished his sentence, the engine suddenly started to roar louder. The boat lurched dangerously sideways and almost capsized. Oh no! No! Stop it now! What an idiot! The captain shouted angrily. Quick, Mac! Run down there and tell him to kill all the engines now! All of them! Stupid fool! What does he think he's doing, getting us down to the bottom of the sea? After his outburst, the captain returned to his calmness and concentrated on his steering wheel. He looked up and out and around him in weariness. How he wished it were over. The angry sea monster scared the hell out of everyone for a brief period of less than half an hour, then it left them. Constant rain was still pouring down from the dark sky. The real danger had passed. It was tamer now, and it had no interest in the group of pitiful boat people anymore. It was satisfied with its game. Day 5. Miraculously, the storm stopped at dawn. The sunrise was as beautiful as ever, slowly ascending from the horizon. Its powerful rays shone brilliantly down its subjects without prejudice. The water was as clear and blue as before. The sea was a mask of tranquility. The waves were gently splashing against the boat in friendly caresses, with no trace of the violence of a few hours ago. The only evidence was the water in the lower deck. They had to use buckets and everything they could get hold of, trying to get rid of it. Many had slipped right through the storm without realizing the danger at sea and their possible fate. Who could have thought of its capability in changing its facade from tranquility to maliciousness in just a fraction of time? It was only thanks to the calmness of the captain and his professional manner in dealing with the situation that we survived at all. Just imagine the state of panic among the passengers and the state of the boat last night. It makes a frightening picture, Mac told Nguyen and G, shaking his head in disbelief at their luck. Without his skillful maneuver in letting the boat roll along with the waves, we could have ended at the bottom of the sea right now. The day was tranquil again, but later that night they encountered another storm. However, this time it was not as ferocious as the last. The sea monster had scared the boat people enough from last time, and this time it was just to tease them a little bit in its creative game once more. Juan did not wake the girls to come to the upper deck as last night, and the captain was as skillful and composed as before. And so they survived one more day. Day 6. Hey, there's a boat. Someone pointed to starboard. We're safe. We're going to be rescued. Hooray, we're safe. Hey everyone, we're going to be rescued. Many were looking toward the approaching boat and eager to be rescued as they believed. It's a Thai fishing boat, the captain, sitting high on his control wheelhouse chair, said quietly to Mac. He then slid off his gold bracelet, ring and necklace, pushing them into a crevice beneath his seat. It turned out the captain had seen it coming, but thought nothing could be done to prevent it. The passengers were men, women, and children, weakened by the voyage and not equipped to fight against invaders. It might turn into a violent bloodshed if they resisted, and it was best to let them satisfy their greed. Mother heard the exchange between Mac and the captain, and she saw what he did with his jewelry. Intuitively, she did the same with hers, hiding it on top of the roof. Then she whispered to the girls, using the only tactics she knew. Don't look at them, and stay behind me all the time. Don't let them notice you at all. Understand, girls? Drin was puzzled at first. Were they not going to be rescued? And she was about to ask, but was hushed by V. Shh, don't say anything. The Thais were muscular and lean. Their dark skin was tanned like charcoal. They jumped onto the boat and started yelling in Thai, which no one understood. At first, some passengers rushed forward, ready to greet them, but they stopped midway when the pirates started taking out their hatchets and knives. They were stunned by what they saw and stood paralyzed with fright. The pirates started to rummage into people's belongings and yelled out more Thai in heated voices, gesticulating to people's necks, arms, and fingers for personal jewelry like necklaces, bangles, chains, watches, or rings. The passengers on board silently obeyed. They were hurt and felt betrayed. It was their first encounter with humans after many days at sea, and they had thought they were going to be safe at last. Ah! Drin heard a girl scream in terror, and she turned to see one of the Thais reaching at the girl, pulling the gold necklace off her and making several buttons of her blouse snap open. It was just a young boy of 18 or so. His naked upper torso was covered with tattoos. A figure of a naked, voluptuous girl was on his right bicep, so when his muscle moved, the girl seemed to dance around. A cobra was on the other bicep, and crossed swords with a large skull was on his back. On his chest was some transcription, the kind of writing similar to Khmer script or Brahmi in ancient Indian. It could be his name or it could be anything. The girl started to cry hysterically. Her hands crisscrossed in front of her chest. Her blouse was fully open. The girl's father rushed forward, and her mother quickly stepped closer, pulling the girl toward her, away from the pirate. Mother held Drin's hand tighter, pushing Kim and Drin behind her back, as if shielding the girls from sight. Step closer here, V, she told V. Sit down behind me, don't stand up like that, she panicked. The boy mumbled something, then turned around, looking at their alarmed faces. Then he walked away hurriedly to the upper deck and joined with his gang. The girl's necklace remained on the floor, and its gold aura was visible on the dirty timber deck. He did not pick it up, as if it had almost turned him into a devil, and he had to run from its evil influence. They were fortunate again, as it was in the early days then, when the Thais were fishermen who sighted Vietnamese refugee boats by chance and were opportunistic pirates, but meant no harm to human lives. It was only a few months later that they became real terrorists who raped, tortured, and robbed refugee boat people in outrageous atrocities that remained ugly scars in the minds of many survivors. The Thais left after taking most of the valuable belongings and jewelry with them. In exchange, with the little bit of humanity that remained, they gave the refugees some oil and a few cans of fresh water and pulled them a little closer inshore. That taught them a lesson to be cautious of approaching boats. That same afternoon, they encountered another Thai fishing boat with a similar scenario. But this time there was nothing for the pirates to loot. They were angry, and in revenge, they pulled the refugee boat further out to sea, leaving them there without supplying oil or water. Their boat was running low on both essentials, and everyone was exhausted by their situation now. Day 7. By luck, they arrived safely on land after a week at sea. The last time they had encountered another boat, everyone was indifferent. They were sick and tired of being robbed, violated, or pulled away to sea. However, this time they had a pleasant surprise. Their boat was fortunate to come across a group of Malaysian Yacht Club members near the island of Bidong. The tourists, generous, kind, and wealthy, intercepted them and towed them back to their island. They let the boat people come on shore to visit their holiday cabin and gave the refugees a real feast with ham, cheese, chicken, meat, breads, fruits, cakes, and biscuits, and most of all, water. There was even Coca-Cola. "Look, I've been given this." Drin showed the Coca-Cola can to Luke, beaming with pleasure. "It's not fair, I want one too," Luke protested. "I think they gave everyone a can, Luke. Go over there and get it." By the end of the 7-day voyage, everything was running out: food, water, and oil. Their boat relied on the benevolence of the people they came across, even the Thai pirates who robbed them the first time. Their boat had been running out of water a few days ago, and they had already had to drink water from the bottom of the large tin container, which was muddy and reddish in color with iron residue. The taste of the soda can was exceptionally sweet. Not only did it quench the young girl's thirst, but it gave her a taste that she had not come across since 1975. The new government had cut off trade relations with the United States after the fall of Saigon. Anything to do with America was banned and completely taboo in the country. It was the best meal that Drin had ever eaten in her life. Everything tasted deliciously good. Even the water was sweet, fresh, and clean, not muddy and reddish with iron residue in the tank that she had to drink in the last few days. They devoured the food awkwardly. Receiving food and a can of Coca-Cola from one of the Malaysian tourists, Drin did not know what to say, as she did not know many words of English, except phrases like, "Thank you very much," "It is very good," "Yes," and "No." The kids even joked between themselves, Juan, Kim, Drin, and Luke. If they ask you questions and you can't catch what they're saying, just reply with 1 yes and 2 no's if feeling negative, or with 2 yeses and 1 no if feeling positive. Then they laughed at their silliness when practicing their answers, pretending to be very smart. "Thank you." Drin tried so hard to enunciate the words clearly that the Malaysians smiled at her effort. After feeding them with a generous amount of food, the tourists gave them the rest of the supply and a few cans of oil, and then showed the captain the direction of the refugee camp. Sated with a delicious meal and feeling light-hearted at the prospect of being nearer to land, the boat people were grateful for their fortunate encounter. The boat went out for a few hours before they saw land again. "Ahoy! There's the island!" someone shouted. "It's land! It's land! Come on, everyone, it's land! Oh my God, we've arrived! We're here! We're safe now!" Some others rushed onto the cabin and joined in the chorus, but most of them remained quiet. They exchanged looks of concern as the boat had been pushed and shoved away by the Malaysian authority twice when approaching the shorelines yesterday and the day before. After giving them more water and oil, the Coast Guards even fired several shots in the air to frighten them and shoo them away quickly. I hope we're accepted here, Mac worried. I don't think I can go on any longer. It's the right spot. The kind Malaysian tourists pointed this place out, I'm sure, the captain reassured him. Then the captain was perplexed when he heard shouting in Vietnamese from the shore. Stop the engine! Smash it! Scuttle the boat! Smash the hull! Punch a hole! Crash the boat! Sink it! Yes, sink it quickly, otherwise you'll be pushed away. Come on, do it now! Scuttle the boat, don't just stand there! Hurry up, do it quickly! The captain then realized the message was to destroy the boat so they would be rescued rather than being pushed away for trespassing as illegal immigrants. Ahoy down there! Stop the engine! He yelled to the lower deck, while still holding to the steering wheel and keeping control of the rolling boat. Mac, go down below and tell them to crush the hull, quickly, the captain ordered. Then he repeated, tell them to stop the engine immediately, the silly buggers. There was shouting on the boat to the lower deck to crush the hull. Suddenly, Drin felt humiliated and embarrassed, hoping they were not to be pushed away like beggars again. She felt so small, so belittled, wishing she had not left her country. She was reduced to a nobody, without pride and with no country of her own to return to, a stateless person. She cried silently, surprised at her emotions. She should be glad that they reached land safely. Instead, she felt very much like a refugee. She was just one member in the group of disparaged and pitiful people arriving in their odd-looking boat, appearing ridiculous and pathetic, wide-eyed in shock and with dirty hands and feet. That moment of humiliation mingled with the joy of landing on shore stayed with her for years after. Dren was sure every refugee had a similar feeling until proven differently. Then the joy overcame the moment of humiliation with shouts of jubilance from people on the boat and on shore. Everyone, lie flat on the floor with your head down and your hands above your head, please, the Malaysian Coast Guard ordered. They were checked for weapons and allowed to disembark after. Some were immediately reunited with brothers, sisters, family and friends within the crowds. There were indescribable feelings, with cries of happiness and of grief when telling the news from home. The cheerfulness was there after an incredible journey, but there were also heavy feelings in their hearts. The realization that they were now out of danger from the communists was beyond ecstasy, but it also came with the realization that they might never see their country again. That last insight filled them with foreboding.